Greetings and salutations, everyone. It's time for, I don't know what to call this right now, Hardcore 2 in review, maybe? I am, of course, Samius and if you're struggling on the hardcore, maybe my story of the goals that I completed will help you figure out how to get to yours. So, first of all, I realize now in retrospect that I did my goals in the wrong order. What does that mean? So my goals were Reaper Cloak, Horsey, obviously level 20, and have a reasonable position on the leaderboards. So what I ended up doing was my goal was to get my 5,000 favor, pick up whatever Reaper points I could along the way by playing with other people that were already doing Reaper and kind of just tag along. Let them do the heavy lifting and just kind of be there, be supportive, do like my normal style of play where I'm still being helpful, I'm still being productive, but I don't have to take a primary or a leadership role in the quest to get things done. That worked pretty well for me for the most part, I'm not going to lie. The problem was here, and I'm going to explain. I was running with 3 or 4 names that I recognize regularly. Loa, Ion, a couple other people that I can't think of off the top of my head, but they were pretty good about running Reaper. They often were near my level range. I could typically get into their groups. Even if I was a little bit lower level, I'd already built a reputation with them that I was a person that they could take into a quest even if I was lower and still contribute. So that let me get a few Reaper points going before I reached the primary goal of 5,000 favor. So out of the blue, the primary person I was playing with at that time died, which was Loa. And then my primary anchor for doing Reaper quests at that level disappeared. And I didn't want to take on the initial responsibility of being the person to get people back into doing Reaper quests and stuff like that. I'd had a couple of failures and even a death due to the fact that I had put I had joined a Reaper group. That guy had died. I got arbitrarily put in charge of the Reaper group, and then through miscommunications or something, I ended up getting killed during that Reaper quest, and it sent me back to 0, obviously, because there's no hardcore, and it just didn't feel good, right? So basically, that gave me the opportunity to set the Reapers aside and work with Beef on the 5,000 favor list. Which, of course, on the way, you end up picking up your bone helm and so on and so forth. And those are all really fine achievements along the way, but it felt weird. So anyway, we got to 5,000 favor. We took level 20, and we turned in our rewards. As you can tell, I got my bone horse over here. I'll probably mount that up later. For those of you who haven't seen it, which I don't know what rock you're hiding under if you hadn't seen it yet. And then we were doing Reaper 1s post level 20. And Beef ended up taking 2 hits. He took a 1,000 point hit and immediately followed up by a 500 point hit. And I lost my tank. At that point, we had picked up another viewer, Val, who was helping us out quite a bit. And we were still able to finish the quest that we were doing. But, again, I lost my anchor for the second time, which made questing a lot more difficult because I don't have a ton of experience right now going from level 20 to level 30, which is what I was trying to do, was get to a point where I could get those last 5 Reaper points with the least amount of effort and the least amount of risk. And I honestly, and I still feel this was true, had we got to like level 23 and started doing those Reaper 1 epic quests, I feel like we would have been fine. or at least had a greater chance to pull it off. But so anyway, I did some stuff. I did some explorers. I did some regular quests. I got to like level 23, and right around 5,200 and I don't know, like 45 or something favor, somewhere in that ballpark. I was 24th, I think, on the leaderboard, maybe 23rd on the leaderboard, somewhere in the mid 20s on the leaderboard when I took the day to play on the live server. Took the evening off, did some stuff, thought about it a whole lot, and realized that my best opportunity to earn those last 5,000, or the last 5 Reaper points, was to just go ahead and TR. So I went ahead and I bought a Heart of Wood because I had already done a bunch of post level 20 stuff with Bal and passed him all the tokens I got because I wasn't going to do that. I was going to just level up. And instead I bought a heart, spent money, and went rough berserker, and leveled up to here, got my points, and so now I'm no longer on that favor board, but I am on the Reaper favor board. So I'm on the Reaper favor board currently at 23, with just barely stepping over the line, just a little bit. So so I hit my goals. And let's talk a little bit about how I actually got there, shall we? So, my build, and I basically did a Gnome Wizard the first time through, and I did this time a Deep Gnome Wizard the second time through. So let's talk about it just a little bit. The current build is almost identical to my hardcore guide, which is on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/SamiusGarobo. Probably here where you're watching this video. And if I can figure out how to put it someplace, I'll put in the link in the comments or one of the little boxes. I don't know. I don't know how YouTube works yet. Still figuring it out. But I'll try to link that video. But this build is basically that video right now. But the previous build was a little bit different. I did not do a Deep Gnome because I did not want to have to go all the way to 30 to TR. It was kind of in the back. Thank you for subscribing. It was kind of in the back of my head that there was always a strong likelihood that I would have to TR to get my Reaper points where I was most comfortable. Playing Reapers is level 1 to 20. So I intentionally did a normal gnome and started out as rogue just to get the skills where I needed them to be, and then TR'd into this. That being said, the builds are, I mean, very, very similar. We'll take a deep look at it in just a second. Feat-wise, basically it's what you would expect. I took Maximize, Empower, Heighten, Quicken, and Extend. Basically all the key metamagic feats along the way, wherever I could. I also took Arcane Initiate, which I never put on my bar anywhere. I was just trying to maximize my various DCs. We're on Reaper mode. I wanted things to die quickly and efficiently. I didn't want them to save. So, yeah, put things in. I will also say that when we got the 1750 favor, I took an Int Tome. I did not want to wait for that extra +1 to my DCs. And then eventually I found, I think Beef actually found it and gave it to me, a +2 to +3 tome. So I have a +3 intelligence tome on this character. At the 5,000 favor, I grabbed a +5 constitution tome. And I feel like this +5 constitution tome was a really big deal when we TR'd. When I TR'd back into this build. It made a big difference hit point wise. Spell wise, again, it's pretty much your typical PaleMaster build. Be sure that you take some sort of chill touch effect. You can do it through Archmage or you can do it through level 1 spell. I prefer to do it through the level 1 spell. The cooldown's shorter than going through Archmage, but it doesn't really matter. I found a lot of value in taking False Life this hardcore season, like a lot. Being able to give myself that 11 to 20 some hit point cushion when you're on Elite or on Reaper and your self healing is really poor. Just being able to tap yourself and give yourself that little bit of a cushion really was helpful. Obviously, both of the auras were really good. Rage was almost a constant spell that I cast. I almost was always raging. The most important level 4 spell, even more important than the aura, is the negative energy burst. So at level 7 wizard, I would take negative energy burst and D-Door. And then quickened it, so it gave me a quick out. And then I'd have, as you can see, I had 2 versions of the spell. One is completely maximized out with everything that I could possibly throw at it. So maximize in power, heighten, quicken. Those, okay, so it's those. And that was my, oh god, there's a Reaper right here, kill it button. Or any other bad guy, kill it button. And then I had one that was completely unmeted for healing back up after a fight. So it was a good way to kind of give myself some self-healing, as well as a poo at the fan mode. And of course with D-Door that, just turn around and get out. I had a death earlier on the hardcore server with a character I really was enjoying, and I'll end up doing a life eventually and a build eventually, a build video sometime. But I actually tried to D-Door or teleport out with the teleport scroll, and you know how sometimes you get that lag interface when you swap to you swap something and it lags for a second. So I double clicked the scroll. It gave me the animation. It gave me the thing, said success, but I didn't get a teleport away. So I clicked it again. It said the same thing, and the monster killed me. So I didn't want to rely on teleport as an escape. And I also didn't want to leave the quest, because if I was doing Reaper mode and I needed an escape, I wanted to be able to get back in, or I wanted to stay in the quest. I just wanted to move away from the danger. Which actually came into play during... what's the capstone quest in Necro Chain 3? One of the crypt, whatever that big crypt was. Anyway, I ended up having to D-Door away, heal up, and then the Reaper teleported to me. I was able to kill the Reaper at that point because I was ready for it, and then run back to the party. Curse Crypt, thank you. So that being able to D-Door as opposed to just straight up teleport away not only saved me in that quest, but also allowed me to continue running with the party that I was running with instead of having to leave. So those are the 2 most important 4th level spells. The next important spell comes at level 6, and that is the Necrotic Ray. This is your See a Reaper, Kill a Reaper button. It's maximized, empowered, quicken, all the things. You see a Reaper, you hit it. Like that's, boop. That's your finger of death for Reapers. Just die. Pretty important. So that's basically the spells in a nutshell, how they're important. After that, it's up to you. If you want to take Firewall for whatever, it doesn't matter. The rest of that stuff is up to you. Now let's talk a little bit about the enhancement tree. As you can tell, right now I'm level 14. I hit my last point, and I basically gave everything and left the server. Gave most of my belongings away that I could and left the server. So, this is not what the build would look like at level 20, but this is a pretty good snapshot of what the build looks like right now at level 14. And if you're following the build along, this will definitely show you, especially if you watch the build video up to level 10, this will just kind of re-solidify what path I was talking about. So let's start with the Deep Gnome. As you can tell, I didn't take Permanent Blur, I didn't take Stone Skin. Why those are both very good items, or not items, but enhancements to consider. I had plenty of plat on this hardcore server run, so I just bought Wands of Stone Skin. I didn't care, it was fine. And my gear list involved having the blurred finger gloves, so I just, as soon as I got to level 10, I never cast blur. I never worried about it. It just, whatever. Once I got to level 16 or 17, I did swap back into blur on the previous life. So the enhancement that did actually matter, or does actually matter the most as a deep gnome, is Illusionary Escape. And what that specifically lets you do is tumble through enemies. So I had a death, again, on this particular hardcore server, but I've had deaths on other playthroughs, where I got pinned against bad guys and a wall. And this prevents that. You shield block and you roll through the enemies and you run away. Also, because you can tumble through things, you can use an AoE effect or a series of AoE effects. Like you could Cloud Kill and Firewall, or Cloud Kill and Ice Storm, or whatever. And you could just tumble in a circle, kiting the things around in a very tight circle. And it makes a big difference, especially when you're in undead form and you have your Cloak of Night running. So Cloak of Night, as long as you're shield blocking, you gain a permanent invisibility and permanent displacement. The other reason why I didn't cast Blur a whole lot. I was almost entirely shield blocking when I was in combat. Very rarely was I in a combat situation where I was not holding down the shift button to block and gain the displacement effect. It's just how it was. So let's look at PaleMaster and how I think about it and what it is that I think is the most important. So the way that I played this hardcore server was I really took advantage of Randy, who is my undead skeleton, and I took advantage of my pets as much as I possibly could. In fact, if you were to look at what my level would look like, or my enhancements would look like in the next 2 or 3 levels, I'd be going up this Harper tree to take Harper Leadership, absolutely 100%, and possibly even grabbing things like Heroic Companion, which isn't very good most of the time, but if you're throwing it on a hireling or somebody else in your party, it's a reasonable buff. But yeah, I was taking Harper Leadership maxed out almost every single time. And when I had wiggle room to take it, I was taking the feat that also increased your hireling's boost. If you're not a hireling person, I can respect that. Just take spell penetration instead. But I liked having a guy that I could send out there and die, and I didn't have to worry about it. In fact, a lot of the times, the skeleton with all the enhancements on it was enough to like tank Reapers the entire time until like we cleared all the trash and was able to fight the Reaper, or a champ or something like that, or a boss even. Let's summon Randy here. I don't know how many hit points he has right this minute. 400-ish. You give him the rage and you have shit buffs. You can get up to 450 pretty easy. And 450 at level 14 as someone to stand between you and the bad guys, especially because you're invisible, is a lot. Then of course the next most important things are hit points. I basically went up this and then this, with the exception of picking up Cloak of Night as soon as possible. Once you have your defenses in place, I would work my way up the Necrotic Bolt tree to get up here. This taking level 12 is really, really hard on a lot of casters, myself included. Because this is your big bang, your Necrotic Blast. It costs you nothing. It kills bad guys like a boss. But there's a lot of quests below level, before you can take level 12 on the hardcore server. So yeah. Then, once I had this, my goal would be to start working my criticals up. My critical opportunities. So, right now, a lot of my gear is not... I had random gen necrotic items. I don't have them anymore. So right now, my negative energy spell power is only 241 compared to my electric of 299. But that is with gear that we'll talk about a little bit later. And this is without gear, really. I could switch to this orb and kind of catch up a little bit. But see, just like a minor gear upgrade here of the cursed orb or a cursed skull, which is not optimized because I did not have the other piece of the cursed necromancer set, easily puts me at 30% chance to critical and almost catches up my negative spell power. So imagine if I put in a real negative energy spell power item, how much more that could jump ahead. Again, I gave all that stuff away. So then once we had the critical maxed out, then we started working on things like Unholy Avatar, which I really like, Beef really hates, because it's how you can start killing undead. And the downside is that you give them one big heal, and then you can start killing them with your negative energy damage. Which is why I started taking Chill Touch as a non-maximized, non-empowered, nothing ability to start hurting undead, and then you could zap them. So if I hit Chill Touch, I could immediately follow up with a Necrotic Bolt and just basically nuke the undead right out of existence. It worked out really well. Also, when we're talking about SLAs, we have these two SLAs over here, which are very, very key. But you also, in my opinion, want some sort of ranged SLA, and this is where the Evocation Magic Missile from Archmage came from. You're talking about 2 spell points for a maximized and powered blah 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 Magic Missile. And why that's not hundreds of thousands of damage, it's just something that you can spam when you're out of SP or running backwards or whatever. Some sort of continue going on. Whenever you get the opportunity, you pick up the extra hit points from Eldritch Knight, etc. It's not rocket surgery. When you get to level 12, obviously you want to take your Necrotic Blast. This is where your character turns from fine, like it's good. He can clear mobs, he can take care of business, but he goes from that to turns the corner and starts killing monsters. You're talking about essentially, no difference than the Sork's version of the Fireball, right? With a few weird twists. I mean, fire damage versus negative energy damage. Half the a lot of the quests have undead in it. Not as many things are immune to fire as is negative energy, but when negative energy is bad, it's really bad. When fire is bad, it's just not great. So maxing out your Necrotic Blast at 12 becomes very important. Then personally I take Reactive Discorporation, turning yourself into a bat. It's a lot like the Arcane Barrier over here in Eldritch Knight, but you are fighting your way up this tree anyway, so you might as well get it. I like taking the one where you turn into a swarm of bats and disappear. I know a lot of people take the other version. It's up to you. And then the Ascendant Shroud came after. I'm a person that advocates being a Wraith on the hardcore server. On the not hardcore server, I would say go for Lich, because you have the gear to help support. But Shroud of the Wraith, the 20% incorporeal that you can gain at level 12 becomes, in my opinion, very good. I guess it's 25%. What am I thinking? It's 25%. Because you get 5 up here from Ascendant, 10 here, and then you can pick up Ghost in the Wind at level 12 and level 12 Wizard, and increase another 10. So you can get 25% incorporeal. You add that in with your 50% displacement from blocking, and all of a sudden you become very hard to hit. The other thing that's a little bit different is I take Undead Shock at level 6 Wizard. That gives you 25% bonus to electric absorption, and you no longer take extra light damage. Not taking extra light damage is very, very important. A lot of particularly lower level quests, they will hit you with light beams like nobody's business. And then certain mobs at higher levels, they hit like a freight truck with the light damage. So if you're taking extra light damage because you're in undead form, you want to stop that as quick as possible. Shield blocking helps a lot, but just not having to worry about it at all is much, much better. Then once all these things are taken care of, then you can start throwing your extra points in your negative healing amp. And I want to talk about this really quickly. When you are low levels on the hardcore server, and I'm talking like below level 10, before you can heal yourself through whatever you need to on the hardcore server, if you have a couple of pots, you can power through whatever. Before you reach that point, you need to be able to go in and out of your necrotic or your undead stance very quickly. You do take half healing while you're necrotic, while you're undead, so it's not like you're impossible to heal, but sometimes it's like you're impossible to heal. So if you start taking damage, you need to be able to jump out of that form while you're trying to get away, so they can heal you fully. Also, things to keep in mind is that some interactions with certain classes, so like what's the big 1,000-point heal, whatever that's called, the divine sovereignty, unyielding sovereignty type effects, don't seem to work in undead form. Lay in hands seem to be fine. Some of the alchemist spells don't necessarily work right, I found, while you're in undead form. So keep that in mind. You need for healing. So you need to keep that kind of stuff in mind. That you need to have the ability to get out of that form very quickly. So especially if you're using something like Lich, and it's giving you an awful lot of your Constitution modifier or bonus hit points, if you're a zombie, keep in mind that could be problematic for you. Let's see, we already talked about how I would go up Harper leadership because I would rely so heavily on the pets. So let's just take a quick minute and look at the gear. So I have some of the important low-level gear sitting here, and obviously I will talk about the Ravenloft set. But Fjarlin Mirror Cloaks, no-brainer. Nicked Orbs, Nicked Quarterstaffs, these should be no-brainers for a lot of people. These are things that you just kind of pick up along while you're doing your favorite, doing stuff. Throw them in the bank when you're not using them. It's very important. Brimstone, Warden's Robe, Constitution outfits, a little bit of extra spell resistance, not that it does a whole lot. Some spell penetration for low level stuff when you're casting like low level holds, valuable. Consumable type things, obviously Stone Skin Wands. I did a lot of Scrolls of Summon Monster 5. I felt like they did really well. Also, one of your options is a Shadow Dog. I don't know, Ward? Shadow Ward, maybe? Which means that your negative energy aura would heal your summon, which would help it last longer between sessions. Or between summonings. The negative energy potions, it took me a while to remember where they are, but they're located in House Jarasco in the Heal Scroll shop in the back. So they're still considered divine healing potions, or divine potions, even though arcanes use them quite a bit. Obviously teleport scrolls and fire shield scrolls are probably the most important of the main one, the big ones. Being able to travel around is really good, and of course taking half damage from fireballs or Cone of Colds are very important later. I also recommend having some mana pots if you're going to be playing this build. Don't carry a lot, carry like 1 or 2 with you, so in the event that things go really bad, you can slam it and start smashing spells. You don't have the same reserves as like a Sork will. You don't have as many SLAs as like some of the other builds do to kind of fall back on when you're low on mana. So don't be afraid. Invest. You're going to earn so many DDO points while you're playing on the hardcore server that you're not going to use otherwise. You might as well be ready to cash them in. That being said, if you're still playing on the hardcore server and you're looking for things to buy to get ahead, buy the Anti-Beholder Crystal. Just do it. Whenever you think there's a beholder nearby, swap into it. It's worth it. Also, I don't know if these actually helped or not, the Lesser Treasure Hunter elixirs. I feel like they didn't cost very much, and sometimes they were really, really good, and sometimes they weren't. Give or take, give them a shot, see what you think. Oh, there they are. My mistletoes. So I'm a big advocate of mistletoes. I talked about them on the DDO cast I was last on, and both Patrick and Strimtom didn't even know what I was talking about. So the mistletoes are a abundant elite item. They are consumables, so you eat them and they're gone. But think about all the times that you would use abundant leap, right? If you were a monk, or leap as the dragon leap, or whatever. It's an extremely useful offensive and defensive power. And mistletoes are currently on sale when they come into the store. They are 10 DDO points apiece, or I believe 10 for 90. So I always buy a whole bunch, and I eat them throughout the year. This hardcore season, they're still there. So I think I bought 20 of them, which means I used 9 and or had characters die with some on their backpack. Again, carry 1 or 2, put the rest in your shared bank, and you're good to go. Let's see. Obviously, my various pets were very helpful. I'm also, like I said, a big hireling guy. So, again, I used summons, and I put them between me and the bad things. Every body in the quest has an opportunity to take the hits for you, so I used them. I also want to talk about this Margaret's necklace. Deathblock and Profane Life Force 7 at level 3. I actually ended up wearing this necklace, or variations of this, like I had a couple, really late into lives. Sometimes they were the best option for Deathblock that I had. I did eventually find these bracers that were Deathblock of Dodge at level 8, which is generally where I would switch out of the necklace and into these bracers. I did also have a couple of like super low level Deathblock bracers around level 3, but almost always this was better than whatever random other thing that was on it would be. So grab one of those if you can. Also, don't forget to take the time to farm your memories. I ended up using the Charisma one quite a bit. UMD and Good Luck both came in handy. That's basically plus 5 to UMD. Charisma plus 4, 1 to use Magic Device, and 2 from Good Luck. So you're talking about plus 5 to your UMD. I mean, a lot of times if you're trying to wand somebody back to life because they, right here I have this wand, and I have a 135% chance to use it right now. I should have upgraded the wand, but I'm just trying to heal somebody, so there's some sort of healing going on. This was more than enough. Let's see. I also had the opportunity to craft a little bit of a 5 rings. This is pretty common. Constitution, Resistance, and Spell Focus Mastery. It's what I did a lot. The nice thing about it is below level 8, I could wear it as a ring. And obviously post level 10, below level 10, I could wear it as a ring. After level 10, when I was putting on, Ring of Nightfalls and Scold Rings, it let me switch around. The downside is I had to remember to switch into my Voice of the Master to into Quest, which means, as you can tell, I'm losing like 40 hit points. It is significant. Phase Cloak is kind of a no-brainer for everybody. We're going to talk about that in a second. I did not really need these boots because I was mostly in undead form. Like, I didn't really need undead or freedom of movement for like holds and stuff like that. But the reflex save was really good, and the natural armor bonus, I guess, was fine. My current standing reflex save is 30 plus a GH scroll, which you can't see that they're here because I gave them all away, but I was basically carrying around 100 stacks of GH scrolls at the end. So you're talking like, I want to say I was like a 38 or 40 most of the time, which is pretty okay here towards the end, and obviously it got better later. So the thing that I regretted was I was wearing the Beacon of Magic set, but I couldn't get the negative energy belt. I could only get the electric belt, this belt. Which is why you may notice, if you look at my spells, maybe, yeah. So I have Lightning Bolt instead of Fireball. I have Ball Lightning instead of whatever you put at level 5, and I have Chain Lightning here at 6. So I ended up relying on negative energy and electricity as my 2 energy types. If I could have found the other belt, I probably would have had a secondary focus on fire, just because the things that necrotic energy is weak against, like other undead, etc., tend to die to fire. Like, it just is the thing, the shore up the weaknesses in the build. Doesn't mean electricity wasn't fine, it was, but I would have liked it to be the other way around. Let's see. I do also want to point out that this has a enchantment. This should bonus. The enhanced magnetism should stack to increase, which is why the electricity here is so much higher. Or if I could add the negative energy one, it would have been great. At 17, I was able to switch into the Dreadkeeper set, thanks to a lot of grinding and a lot of help from a lot of really great people. So, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Made a big difference. This is actually a really good set. And this set alone has got me kind of excited to play a PaleMaster again back on live. With a little bit of luck and a little bit of work, I was able to get the Black Velvet Capelet, which was not always the best option for gear, except for it kind of hit all the buttons. The Boon of Undeath was great, so it's like I was constantly getting little baby heals. Profane Well-Rounded, I didn't have anywhere else in the build. And the Insightful Negative Healing just made the little baby heals bigger. But it fought against the Acolyte lenses a lot. So what I ended up actually doing was building with the potential to get... There's some spot goggles out of the Soul Stealer chain, but I never was able to get them. So I was set up in a position that I could swap into those as like my spot trapping item, but I was not lucky enough to find them. Instead, I ended up wearing this hat at 18 and whatever spot helm I could find along the way. A lot of people know that I don't have the greatest memory when it comes to traps in the quest, but I almost always end up being the trapper. That way I know 100% of the time we have a trapper in my group, and the only way to guarantee that is to be the trapper, which means for me, I need to have a high spot score so I can rely on my spot going off. Then we did some grinding for the Shattered Onyx, which also was really great. Profane Spell Focus, Insightful Resistance, Insightful Dodge, like it just covered everything we needed. And then I slotted the Spell Resistance 5 in it, or not Spell Resistance, the Resistance in it, because by that time we would have swapped out the 5 rings anyway, so I needed that slot back in. The Black Satin Waist, Quality Intelligence, Spell Pen, Spell Focus Mastery, etc., like it's just a no-brainer to put on. And then the Stygian Wrath. This is one of the Sharn pieces of gear that stuck around. So basically I went from 12 to 17 on gear. I never found a Sharn set that actually worked for me on the server. But this orb kind of made a lot of the big difference. Again, with this orb on, a random Djinn, negative energy, nullification scepter, and this gear, I was all ready to not have to wear the Acolyte lenses. So yeah, it worked out really well. I felt like it was good. I guess I should also mention I use this Slave Master staff a lot. And the only reason it doesn't have a negative energy spell power item slotted into it was the guy, Bal, actually pulled one and was going to give it to me as I was using this staff, and ended up dying later in that quest. Rip. Rip, rip, rip. So yeah, that's basically how the hardcore server went. I wish in hindsight, or if I had the ability to, I would have got my Reaper points out of the way and then try to have my favor saved up. I do kind of regret not still being in that spot on the Reaper board. I could roll another character and go for it. I just don't want to have another character that I'm fiddling with on the hardcore server right now. So mentally, I just have to remember that I had that like 52,000 and change spot when I TR'd. And again, like I said, I'm currently 23 on the Reaper board. I don't think that I'm going to worry about it. People can push me down if they want to. But, you know, again, my goal was never to get the top of any of the boards or whatever. But it'd been nice in my later, one of the regrets I started having later was I had gotten high on the board. You know, I had the shot to go for the top 10 if I wanted to, stuff like that. Or top, you know, stay in the top 20. And then I lost that because my goal of getting the cloak had to take first place. So it was a little bit sad. I do, however, want to point out, for those of you who can't see it, my haircut and how it looks with the bone mask is sweet. Alright. As always, for those of you who are watching this video, thank you very much. Please do the various YouTube things. Subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, etc. Interaction means a big deal. You can also check us out at twitch.tv/SamusGarobo. I am recording this live right now on twitch.tv. So if you'd like to, you know, be part of the live stream, I'd really appreciate it. I'm doing my best to try to answer any questions or etc. as we play. And I hope this enlightened everyone on how I met my goals, how I got to 20, how I got my 10 Reaper points, how I got my 5,000 favor. Ultimately, I think it boils down to I played the build and the class that I knew the best, and the things that I knew that would give me the greatest opportunities to both stay alive and contribute to the group in many ways. Being the trapper, having some good crowd control, having reasonable burst DPS when needed, and having the ability to micromanage and control the summons and hirelings allowed me to have wide range effects on the battlefield, even if I was just standing there shield blocking and spamming a web effect. For example, I could still also send the hirelings to attack this, or have a hireling heal somebody else, or protect them, or pull a lever, or etc., while still staying and remaining in a place of relative safety. So again, I hope you guys have a lot of success on the hardcore server. If you have any questions, comments, etc., please let me know and I'll be my best to try to help you out. Otherwise, I hope you have a great time on the hardcore server and let me know how you did. Toodles.